I just wanted to ask on e-commerce. Jumia is closing shop. Why? Is it competition? Why do you think they're closing shop in South Africa?
Well, Jumia is not the only one. Zando is also closing shop. Vodacom is not taking this lying down. They're saying that there will be severe financial ramifications if it has to pay out Makate billions of rands. Hello and welcome to ITWeb TV with me, Sibahle Malinga. Today I'm here with my colleague Sam, who is the ITWeb Africa editor. And in today's episode, we look at the year in review as we reflect on some of the big tech stories that made headlines in 2024. Of course, it's been quite an interesting and very busy news year, both in the local and global ICT sector. What do you think, Sam?
It's been a long year, Shiba.
It has been.
Lately, we are coming to the end.
We've worked really hard this year, and
There's a lot of developments that we've covered this year. There's a lot of new tech that has come on the market.
absolutely,
There's a lot of young innovators that have come on the market.
definitely.
So much has happened.
Agile startups,
Yes.
the ever-evolving world of AI. We've seen the e-commerce boom grow even more. We've seen, we've picked the brains of some of the CIOs just to find out what they're focusing on and what really keeps them awake at night. And of course, in the world of cybersecurity, a lot has been happening as well, as criminals stop at nothing to exploit vulnerabilities. So, yeah, we are going to be telling you a lot about that. And of course, as ITWeb, we have been keeping you up to date with all the latest as it unfolds. So, Sam, what's been capturing your interest this year?
Oh, Siba, it's been a long year, like I said before. There's a lot that has happened. If you look at telecoms, you look at cybersecurity, you look at the data center market, cloud computing, fintech, startups. There's a lot that has happened. You look at fiber, broadband,
Very tough to pick 3 or 5 stories, hey?
it's quite a lot. The discussion we have to focus on quite a number of issues that interested or that I felt were big this year, or they made quite a significant impact on the market. It's particularly looking on the African continent. And you say?
Well, yes, for me, definitely in the telecom space, a lot has been happening in the e-commerce space. And if we do get some more time, we'll talk a bit about AI as well. And also, there's this new trend in the ICT, maybe an old trend generally, which is construction mafia that is now moving and shifting towards the ICT sector. So these are some of the stories that we are going to be discussing. So, Sam, let me allow you to go first.
Okay. For me, I'll start with my interest, which is telecoms. There's a lot that has been happening within the telecom space in terms of how they are evolving from being the traditional telecoms companies into digital companies, technos, basically, if you can call it that way. So they are moving away just from being providing voice and data to offering other digital services, getting into the fintech space. So that has been quite an eye-opener, as this is now becoming an area where almost every telco is focusing on. So yeah, that is interesting. So
I understand, Sam, that actually one of the reasons why this is happening is because, of course, telecoms companies are no longer making as much from certain services such as your voice services. So, of course, they need to now, expand their revenues and look at other areas which they can potentially explore. And so we're seeing this platform, sort of like a platform approach where telecoms companies are now becoming really everything. They're becoming like, super apps. They're becoming retailers. They're becoming banks. They're evolving into, other arenas which ordinarily you would not expect from a telecoms company.
yeah, look, the voice has been going down, and now they're trying to find new revenue streams. We have to back up the losses that they are suffering from the loss of voice revenues. So that's why you have seen, I think, every CEO or of any telco that you speak to, they are telling you they're transforming their company into a techno, which is beyond just being a telecoms company. They are all now moving into super apps. They are all moving into fintech. They are doing all other
Retailing,
retailing, banking, everything, insurtech. So there's a lot that is happening. They're no longer the telecoms companies that we know. They are evolving, and they're evolving at a rapid rate. And if you look at companies like, probably I'll mention a few companies like your MTN, which is Africa's biggest telecoms company. You look at Vodacom, you look at Safaricom. All these guys, they've come up with super apps. All these guys, they're making serious push into the fintech space. And all of them, they're targeting high numbers. For instance, Vodacom, so as MTN, Safaricom, the same. And now they've moved into Ethiopia as well, as a subsidiary, which is recently just scored about 5.6 million new customers who are using the M-Pesa, which is the fintech. So yeah, there's a lot of activity that is happening. And if you move into other areas as well, you go to Mauritius, X and Telecom, they're also doing the same. If you go to Tanzania, Vodacom is doing the same in Tanzania and DRC. And if you go up north, everything, Telecom Egypt is doing the same thing. So the telecom space is no longer the space that we used to know. It is evolving at a rapid rate, and that is making life much easier for people, because they're taking services much closer to the people. So they're now, I think, more customer-centric. Customer experience has become the major driver for most of all these telcos.
Well, very interesting insight you're bringing, Sam. It's definitely something worth watching as we head towards the new year, next year. I'm sure that more interesting trends are going to be evolving in the telecom space. I am going to stay with the telecom sector for a moment, because one story that captured my interest this year is one that has been happening between Vodacom's Please Call Me case, as well as Nkosana Makate, who is the inventor of the Please Call Me. Of course, Vodacom is South Africa's largest mobile operator by subscribers. And this is one case that has been followed by millions of South Africans, a very contentious case.
And beyond.
And even in Africa, because a lot of the legal fraternity have been learning a lot about our laws, even beyond the borders of South Africa. But really, it's been a contentious case. Some people are siding with Vodacom and they want to know why Vodacom is not paying out. Other people are on Makate's case and they want to know, why is he demanding so much, up to 10 billion? In fact, the last time I checked was 10 billion. But if you look at some reports, people say that Makate believes that he's worth up to 65 billion rand. So that's just according to report. But you know what? No matter how you look at it, this is really a landmark case, because it's one of those cases that really has historical and legal significance. And it has really made quite an impact in South Africa's justice system, because some of those laws have been amended, influenced by this case. And we've got many, many law students that have been following this case because of its significance in the legal fraternity. But, before I touch on what has unfolded in 2024, I think it only makes sense for us just to look at the trajectory of this litigation. It's been going on for 17 years, Sam. Can you believe it? So it was back in...
It's a lifetime.
Yeah, it was back in the year 2000 when Makate filed this lawsuit. He was still very young. He says that all his adulthood he's been fighting this case. And so people have different numbers, but it all depends on when you start counting, because the invention itself is a 24-year-old invention. He made this invention, he came up with this invention back in 2000. And of course, he only started really engaging Vodacom about his compensation a few years later, when he realized that, hang on, I'm not going to get anything as per agreed here. Something has to happen. So really, I think the highlight of this case took place in 2016, when the Constitutional Court actually ordered Vodacom CEO Shamil Jusub to determine a compensation. And that's where the famous 47 million figure came into play. Of course, that's how much he offered Makate for the idea. And of course, we saw that he rejected this offer and brought an application to the Gauteng Division of the High Court to have Joseph's determination judicially reviewed and set aside. Now, fast forward to 2022, the High Court case was set aside, and the CEO's figure and ordered. He was then ordered to reconsider the settlement. And then in 2022, Vodacom actually launched an application for leave to appeal against the judgment and the order of the High Court, which then was found, in which Makate was found to be in favor of. So when you fast forward to 2024, the Supreme Court of Appeal then provided a breakdown as to how Vodacom should compensate Makate. So for us, we thought, wow, this is a milestone. We're going to see the court, this case coming to an end, because now the court has provided a breakdown. And what is this breakdown? Well, the Supreme Court of Appeal ordered that Makate be compensated between 5% and 7.5% of the total voice revenue generated via the Please Call Me service, derived over 18 years. That's from 2001 to 2021, and that includes interest. The court also ordered 27% of the Please Call Me messages sent daily being as revenued to be compensated to Makate. So what did Vodacom say? No ways, we cannot afford this. This is way too much. Vodacom pled poverty and said they don't have these mega billions. And in any case, this is so vague. There's absolutely no way of calculating and getting down to a figure when you look at such, such vague figures. And so this is where we find ourselves today. So Vodacom then launched an appeal against this and took it to the Constitutional Court. Vodacom says that the Supreme Court of Appeal has no jurisdiction in any case to come up with such figures, and that, we need to go back to what the High Court had initially ordered. So it's a back and forth case. It's been going on for 17 years. Next year will be 18th year. And let's hope that it's finally going to conclude, and both parties are going to end this on a good note where everyone will be satisfied.
It's going to be a long walk to freedom for him.
Well, one thing people have said is that he needs to skip the country. If things go well for him and he get at least something close to what he thinks he deserves, he should not be in the country if he knows what's good for him.
Behind and enjoy his benefits and his work. Look,
but how safe will he be?
He's been safe for the last 24
That's
years.
because he hasn't been awarded his compensation. So I don't know, a country
for so many billionaires who are here, you get security. I don't think his life will be in danger in any case. But yeah, well, I'm not a security expert, so I wouldn't know. But anyway,
let's just hope they reach some kind of consensus. Yeah.
But it now is back at the Constitutional Court, and we are now awaiting the outcome of the Constitutional
Court. It's back at the Court where Vodacom is actually appealing what was initially ordered by the Supreme Court of Appeal. So we'll see how that goes. And Vodacom is not taking this lying down. They're saying that there will be severe financial ramifications if it has to pay out Makate billions of rands. They're saying that they don't have that. They don't have, and considering how much Vodacom itself is contributing to South Africa's GDP, they're saying that there are, severe repercussions even to South Africa's economy.
Well, lucky for you, you've got diary coming into 2025. You have so much to start from already, because you have got some stuff that's coming. That's on the pipeline.
I'm still on the legal jargon there, trying to understand what it all means. But Makate, if you have an interview with him, oh my goodness, he sounds like a lawyer. Hey, the language he speaks.
Look, after being in court so many times
for 17 years,
end up becoming aware of some of these things and learn a lot about the law.
He has absolutely no choice.
Trying to defend what is his. So yeah, let's hope all goes well on his side. Let's hope justice will be served by the end of the day.
Absolutely. We do wish both parties the best.
Awesome stuff.
So Sam, what stories have you been watching out for this year?
Look, for me, the continent, 54 countries, it's a lot. There's a lot that has been happening. I think I'll start with looking at how the pace of deployment of 5G technologies that has been happening across the continent. If you just look, if I name a few countries: Angola, Tanzania, Somalia, Benin, Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, Zambia, Zimbabwe, they're all deploying 5G technologies because the demand for data is increased. Thanks to COVID, that's when we realized that we can work from anywhere. We can work from home. That means the increase for demand for data, and that's why now telcos are trying to reinvent their networks to try and make sure that they can accommodate as many people as they can. So yes, deployment of 5G technologies stood out for me because so many telcos are out there. They are deploying their new technologies to try and cater for the demand for data.
Well, it's great to know, considering that in South Africa, of course, we know that, in fact, the continent as a whole, 3G, 4G, and even 2G are still more prevalent than 5G. So it's great to know that we are actually keeping up with the rest of the world, who are, by the way, on 6G as we speak. So as much as we are lagging behind, it's great to see that there's progress in 5G deployments.
Yeah, we are, but we're still behind. The continent still relies mostly on 3G and 4G in other parts, in most parts actually of the continent. But so these ones who are progressing with 5G, say kudos to them, and it's good for the continent that they're trying to keep up the pace and push each other to try and bring more technologies that will benefit ordinary Africans and to give them high speeds access to digital economy, because everything is going digital. So you need high speed internet for you to be able to conduct business online. So this is a good thing for Africa, and let's hope it will continue coming in the coming year.
Okay, Sam, what else have you been keeping your eye on?
I think the most interesting thing just happened recently. I think a week or two ago. The reappointment of Ralph Peter as the group CEO of MTN for until 2030. I think
It was a bit of a surprise for some, especially after the controversy that unfolded over the last few months.
yeah. But look, if you look at the period that he came in, Peter joined MTN 2017 as a CFO. Then he transitioned to be the CEO in 2020 when Rob Shooter left. And at that time, when he moved in, that's when COVID hit. And that's when the demand for data, a lot of telecom services went up.
Revenue.
Revenue. So, I think to some analysts, they believe he's probably one of the CEOs that has returned most investments to the MTN shareholders. Until recently, probably after 8 years, when the telco had they declared a loss recently, but based on the Nigeria inflation. But in terms of delivery, he has been trying to transform the company, like you say, we spoke earlier on, moving it into a digital services company, and that has been happening across all the markets that MTN operates in. And he has been pushing the ambitious 2025 strategy, which is working well. So it's not surprising that the board had to reward him with another 5 years. And but it's quite interesting considering that a few weeks prior there had been an uproar regarding his position, but the board believed him, and that the shareholders are also like to believe. They believe he's the right guy that they need right now until 2030. There's quite an interesting story for me that he got his contract renewed.
Even most recently, where there were internal politics, and the board had to run an internal investigation to prove whether the recent allegations with his staff members were actually true, and of course he was acquitted of that. What do you think, Sam, are his attributes that contributed to his contract being renewed?
I think for shareholders, it's money.
Really?
That's just the most.
Well, clearly he's got a skill in bringing in that money.
So yeah. I mean, look, whatever strategy he's using, it's benefiting the shareholder, and so they've got confidence in him that to say he is the guy who can lead us forward with this ambitious 25 that they have. So I don't think it is anything else other than the guy is capable of delivering on his key KPIs, and the board is happy with that. Shareholders are happy with that, and that's why I think they had to renew the contract and give him another 5 years to try and steer the ship. So that's my view on that.
Well, it's definitely another one worth watching out for in 2025. Let's see if MTN is going to keep up with its great performance in the coming year.
At your side, what was striking for you?
Well, what was striking for me is the long-awaited launch of Amazon.co.za. We do know that Amazon is the largest online retailer in the world. Back in 2022, Amazon was valued at 4.12 billion in its annual web sales. And at the moment, Amazon is actually valued at, I think it's 2.5 trillion rand for an online retailer, which is really, really great. So when Amazon launched in South Africa back in May, I know a lot had been said. We've had analysts predicting as to what impact it's going to have in South Africa. People saying, our local retailers, online retailers are going to be in trouble. It's really going to disrupt the entire e-commerce sector, and some even, put the whole e-commerce business model on its head. But actually, as we have all witnessed, Amazon kicked off on quite a slow start, as expected. We have you bought from Amazon yet?
No.
You're a man. You guys don't like buying online.
I will. I will.
Our editor, Admire, says he hasn't had an opportunity to shop online. So we're like, what? You gotta be kidding. But yeah.
I've used other brands. I'm here to use Amazon, but
Well,
other brands.
That's good to know. Because I'm thinking, well, maybe men have more savings than us women because they don't shop. You guys don't shop regularly, at least as regularly as we do. But, Amazon really, when you look at the slow start of Amazon, we all went on the day it went live. We went on the website and we were not really impressed with what we saw because we saw more or less the same as what we see on other platforms, and even just quite a smaller variety of products and offering. But e-commerce experts say that is actually the cycle of an ordinary e-commerce platform. It does often start off on a very slow note, and it's going to take a while for it to be disruptive.
They have confidence.
Yeah, people need to buy in. And also, one of the reasons why it kicked off on a slower start is because it had been onboarding sellers, marketplace sellers. So e-commerce experts have been saying that there are really Amazon's impact in South Africa is really threefold. First and foremost, it's going to have a positive impact on online sellers, people or even small businesses that have never had online presence ever before. So these are the businesses that are really expected to accelerate their business. We've got independent sellers. We've got people who are really going to be leveraging, who do have online presence elsewhere and in other marketplaces. But really, it's Amazon's marketplace strategy that is going to assist it to have a really, really strong impact on South Africa's e-commerce platform. When you look at even the sales, we see it even with Takealot, more than 50% of the offerings on Takealot actually belong to its marketplace sellers. They don't belong to Takealot. So that's where marketplace selling comes into full. And the second place where it's going to really impact South Africa's e-commerce sector is by consumers. We now have a wider variety of options to shop from, and this is going to have a really big impact on lowering and reducing prices. And Amazon has to make sure that their prices are competitive, but then so do the other e-commerce players. We've seen a lot of other e-commerce players that have also now reduced their prices drastically because they want to compete, they want to be competitive. We've seen also Takealot has been introducing a lot of other services. Takealot More is one of them. Also in competition, Takealot is also trying to to increase their delivery and pickup hubs. All that coming into play as as we see the e-commerce boom in South Africa. Yes, we need to still mention that as much as there has been a lot of growth, our e-commerce sales are only at just under 7%, about 6% of the overall retail, retail sales. But there has been quite a significant growth propelled by COVID, as with most digital services. And so that's a second impact. We're seeing a variety for consumers. It means that there's more competition and prices are likely to be fairer because everybody wants consumers to choose their platform. And then in the broader scheme of things, what does it mean for South Africa's overall e-commerce sector? Well, a lot has been unfolding. We've been seeing the global players, the Temus, the Sheins. And so where does Amazon fit into this entire game? Because we know that
Now, what does it mean?
you can't talk about Amazon and not speak Temu and Shein. Well, it does get, the circle only gets bigger, but it also gets a bit more complex because lucky for Amazon, Amazon does not receive the same level of criticism and the same level of shade as Temu and Shein. Why? Because their business model is completely different. They're based in South Africa. They've got offices in South Africa. They've got warehouses in South Africa. They've created tons of jobs, expected to create thousands more jobs in South Africa. Within the ecosystem that looks at deliveries, they're looking at warehouse jobs, we're looking at actual e-commerce jobs. So they are creating jobs. And that's the difference between the Amazon business model and the business model of these global players, Temu and Shein, whose businesses are based beyond South African shores, in Singapore and China, and yet they are capitalizing on our consumers without necessarily that's what they're accused of, allegedly, without contributing significantly to the country's GDP.
Sorry to cut you short. There's a question that I've always wanted to ask on e-commerce. Jumia is closing shop. Why? Is it competition? Why do you think they're closing shop in South Africa?
Well, Jumia is not the only one. Zando is also closing shop. And remember that Zando...
So is it the competition is becoming fierce, or they feel that they don't have the muscle to compete in this market at the moment?
I don't think you can pin it down to one reason, because remember that there are many physical retailers that are also closing shop. We're seeing that with Pick n Pay. We're seeing it with Pick n Pay clothing. They're physical, but they're also closing shop. So a lot has been said. There are various factors that are contributing to that. And I think just the economic downturn in South Africa. And yes, consumers do want better value for their price, for their money. Consumers do want. I mean, I was in a media briefing by one of South Africa's big retailers, and they were talking about the fact that Temu and Shein are actually exploiting, talking about what they're doing wrong and how they're able to lower their prices. But at the end of the day, consumers don't care about many things. Consumers want good value for price. And yes, at the end of the day, it's about what's coming out of a consumer's pocket. And we do care where we put our money to. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's a multifaceted, there are many reasons why retailers are closing down. And I don't think it's necessary because, Jumia wasn't Jumia one of the best performing on the African continent?
It was at some point. They actually called Amazon of Africa at some point, and others referred to it. But things have not been going well for them. So they're downsizing. And
So are they fixing?
I think they've had losses 3 consecutive quarters also. But they're trying to rebuild, to focus on the core business. So they're getting rid of what they say is their non-core business for them. So that's why they're trying to cut off some losses in some areas, including closing certain areas like South Africa, like what they're doing. Because in terms of value that it brings to the group, it's limited. So that's why they're doing that. So let's hope for this will help them to rebuild and refocus, become a powerful e-commerce platform they used to be again on the continent.
Yeah, well, I think that a lot of the e-commerce business models need to be reinvented. When you look at what Shein and Temu are doing right, you really do understand that from a technology perspective, their infrastructure is totally different to what you find in ours. And secondly, when you look at the some of the things that you can order on Shein, for example, on Shein you see that shirt advertised and it hasn't been made yet. So they've got, disruptive production lines, agile production lines. They create as you order. So there's no wastage, there's you in the traditional way of doing things is you create 20 shirts or 200 shirts, which you're going to be supplying to 10 retailers. And out of those 10, there will be some shirts that are not bought. So that's where a lot of money goes down the drain. But when you look at the business model of these new players and you understand how they really make the money, where do they save the money, how can they afford to lower their prices to such extent, then you understand that it's all an innovative business model that makes it all happen. And I think that our very own local players need to relook and reevaluate at the agility and innovation that they've introduced across their platform.
Awesome stuff.
Definitely something worth watching out for in the new year as well. Sam?
I think for me, again, something that really got to me is the number of startups that are coming up with innovations that are life changing on the continent. I've had a chance to travel in different parts where I've seen startups coming up with different solutions, and instead of our youngsters begging, looking for jobs, they are doing something with technology on their own. They're building solutions, they're building companies. If you look at from Northwest East Africa, there's a lot of tech startups that are coming up. So the tech ecosystem is growing. And I'm liking the fact that um, they are having these engagements, which is continent wide, where they have events, they meet, they exchange ideas, they showcase their solutions, they try to engage with funders that to try and get funding to support their projects. And one thing that would interest you actually, this is a fact. Africa right now is the market that everybody is looking for in terms of the VCs, the funders. They're looking at Africa because we do have the youngest population and we have enterprising people, hardworking young people. And these people are ready to work and they are working so hard to come up with different solutions. You look at agri-tech, there's so many solutions that are coming to try.
The innovations there are amazing.
Amazing.
And the thing with Africa, Sam, is that because of of course because of our financial and economic position, we are forced to create leapfrogging technologies, and in order to resolve some of the challenges faced by Africa. So you're seeing Africans coming up with amazing innovations.
That's why I wanted to tell you that unlike other areas in Africa, the innovators and these startups are focusing on societal challenges that they face in their community. They want to solve them using technology. If you look at agriculture, if you look at water, human settlement, if you look at security, if you look at education, all those kind of things, they are trying to be innovative and find solutions using technology to solve the problems they face every day. They're not doing it to sell it to somebody else. They're doing it to solve their own community problems, and they're using technology. In doing so, they've now developed solutions. Now, some of them, they are going abroad, some they are going other parts of the continent. And that's when you are engaging with them, you can see the passion in their eyes. You can see the passion in and the drive they have to try and come up with solutions. So that's one thing that's really excited me this year. I had an opportunity to travel to Kenya to meet some of them.
Can you just give us a few examples of what you saw there?
When I went to Kenya, it was a climate tech event. They were looking for climate tech solutions, So they were looking for, there were companies that were doing agri-tech, the guys who were working on a biofuel, So everything was looking at climate, trying to find how do we solve the climate challenge we have. And these guys, they came up with some of the most amazing ideas that I've seen. And moving on to Cape Town recently, this was like 100 startups showed up from 45 countries. They were all there.
Is it at AfricaCon?
Yeah, no, it was a different event. It was a different event. But you can see that the drive, and these people, they're paying for themselves to fly and meet these funders and pitch to say, this is my solution I have. And I was excited that it was not only probably the big countries that were there. There was other smaller African countries. Sorry to say, I don't mean smaller by size. Local guys like Togo, they were there. Benin, they were there. So the spirit of tech startups is overflown across Africa. It's everywhere, and that's exciting. I'm sure next year we are expecting more. There will be more that will be coming, more solutions will be coming up, more tech startups will be formed, and more solutions for Africa's problems will be found. Africa will rise again.
Absolutely. And of course, we need to see more and more funding coming our way. We've got all these brains, the innovations, and even banking solutions, fintech solutions. So we definitely need the funders.
We have along the fintech, the West Africa, Nigeria. They've got some of the biggest fintech companies in the world. ITWeb is Nigerian born. PayPal, a number of them. They're coming. Nigeria is almost fintech.
And so the unicorns.
The East Africa, it's almost a fintech. So I'm really excited in terms of the innovations that are coming up in here in Africa, and it's no longer one-sided. It's now continental wide. They just need to be listened to. They just need support. They just need that one person who believes in you to say you can make it. And they're doing all the work, and they're working hard. And I think next year we are going to see more exciting stuff coming out of Africa going global.
Wow, that's great. Hopefully more unicorns are going to be made in Africa in 2025. Well, Sam, one story that actually captured my interest is one that I was not really aware of. And that is really the construction mafia that is now shifting focus to the ICT industry. So the construction mafia phenomenon is one that has been going on in South Africa for decades. And of course, the trends are always shifting to one industry or another. But essentially, construction mafia is when a big tech company, for instance, starts a construction project in a local community, and the norm or the law, by law, they need to ensure that a certain number of those construction workers actually form the local community itself. So companies are compelled to ensure that they uplift the community by empowering community members and bring them onto that project. So in an event where that is not happening, at least as much as it should, what we find is community members team up with gangsters, and then they go and attack that project. They attack the executives who are at the helm of that project, and all hell breaks loose. We've seen many murders happening. We've seen violence happening when community members are not happy about a project that has been resumed and established in their community, and they feel that the community members, or at least not enough community members, have been brought onto the project. So they feel that some of these companies, because of their commercial interests, are just there. They bring in foreign workers, be it African workers, or in some case even foreign from Western countries, and the Europes and the UKs, and they come and they build in their community. So it's becoming quite rife as well in the ICT sector. We're seeing it happening with data centers, where data center projects become sabotaged now because community members, in collaboration with gangsters, would hijack that entire project and stop the executives at the helm of it. And in some cases, there's kidnappings that are involved, where a person linked to that tech company is kidnapped for a particular ransom, and you find that sometimes there's funds are solicited, illegally solicited from people who are building the project, because it is known that these are multi-million rand projects. To build a data center is capital intensive, so you'd know that a company has a lot of money, and these criminals do their research, so they know what company it is, what are they building, how much is this construction project worth, and then they try to illegally solicit funds. In some cases, even when they shouldn't be doing so, in other words, even when community members have been grouped into the project, you find that criminals now take advantage of the whole situation and try to solicit funds. Otherwise, they threaten. We've seen buildings get burnt. They burn buildings, violence take place, people die. And, I was at a conference at the Sandton Convention Center, where data center industry experts were actually discussing this, and they were talking about how unfortunately it has led to death more often than it should have, and that even in cases where there are security guards, sometimes security is still not enough to ensure that these data centers are built and that people's lives, are protected. It's such a sad development in the ICT sector. The violence.
Let's hope the government will let on it, and something will be done to try and protect lives going forward as well as the properties.
Absolutely. Government is well aware of construction mafia, and they have been fighting it in certain industries. So, as I mentioned, it is just shifting into the ICT sector. So, hopefully, that the government is going to keep tabs on that and ensure safety for those workers as well as the executives of those companies.
Anyway, from my side, I think my last story for now, there's so many of those, is
It's a hard pick.
the growth of the data center markets, as well as the demand for clouds that we've seen across the continent. We have had international companies now. They are all focused on building data centers across the continent. We have ADC, obviously, which is local, and now they're expanding in West Africa. And recently, they said they'll be also looking to enter into North Africa. They already have presence in Africa, their presence in Kenya, and yeah, that's just one. Then there's NTT, which is also eyeing expansion into in the continent. You have Terraco, that is presence.
And this is all because of the booming demand for cloud. And now there's emerging technologies, your AI, generative AI.
Yeah. So we are going to see this trend continue. With Equinix recently opened up their Joburg facility recently. Microsoft is also looking to go in there. So there is a lot of activity within the data center market that's taking place on the continent, east, north, west, south, everywhere. So I think that is something that is exciting, and that caught my eye, and therefore see this going on coming next year, and it is going to be interesting in terms of competition. I suppose there's also an issue of data sovereignty, which is becoming a key issue, and that has to be addressed by all these guys who are coming up with their solutions. And I think without mentioning any company, I've seen Azure being now brought in to try as a way of to keep data locally, so data sovereignty. So we're seeing this is happening, and I'm sure there are more solutions that will be coming through, and we hope it will be a better year next year for the continent. So much.
Sam, it has been quite an interesting edition of the show. I think you and I can talk the entire afternoon simply because there's so much unfolding in the ICT sector. Yeah, so that's it from us. It has been the year in review right here on ITWeb TV with myself, Sibahle Malinga, and
Sam Mungadze, thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful Christmas. We'll catch up next year with more exciting news.
remember to share, subscribe, and like. Goodbye.